agriculture sector has been a major area of focus for the Kenya Kwanza administration as the government moves to turn around the fortunes of this critical industry.
Among its first policy changes, the Kenya Kwanza administration lifted the ban on cultivation and importation of genetically modified crops and the rollout of major fertilizer subsidy program targeting thousands of farmers in the country.
That is Benson Rioba looks at the performance of this sector under the Kenya Kwanza administration.
In December 2022, Kenya joined Burkina Faso, Malawi, South Africa and South Sudan in full commercialization of genetically modified crops. The cabinet made the major policy change, lifted a 10-year ban on GMO, forcing activists to move to court to challenge the cabinet's decision.
Chakula yote tumekuwa tukiagiza miaka hii yote tayari iko na GMO. Chakula yote tumekuwa tukiagiza. Kwa ile KBC wanasema it must be less than 1%. Sasa wewe ukiambiwa hii ni GMO lakini iko ni GMO lakini less than 1%. Hiyo ni kusema nini? Kusema tu ni GMO.
The cabinet said the decision was arrived at after the Biosafety Authority carried out safety studies. However, the process to commercialize GMO crops in the country hit a snag after the courts temporarily stopped the process until the matter is heard and determined.
Allowing GM to the country, especially for livestock, would have really helped the value chain.
In another policy shift, the government opted to withdraw food subsidies in favor of agriculture input subsidies. In a move aimed at subsidizing production, the fertilizer subsidy was rolled out for last year's short rains. In the first phase of the fertilizer subsidy program, the National Treasury released 3.55 billion shillings to subsidize 71,000 metric tons of the chemical, reducing fertilizer prices to 3,500 shillings from a high of 7,000 shillings per 50 kg bag.
Or we project very good harvest, going by what is happening or what we are seeing, and there is sufficient rain. So this fertilizer has come at the right time.
The coffee subsector is also undergoing key reforms, with the government pushing for passing of the Coffee Bill 2022 and the Cooperative Bill.
Will not give in to blackmail. These brokers and cartels will not hold the government at ransom. No, it will not happen. It will not happen. And we are prepared to put a fund aside to cushion the farmer in this period when we are struggling with these people.
The bill will, among other policy, re-establish the coffee board that will regulate the subsector. Among immediate policies that have been instituted in the subsector include operationalization of the direct settlement system, setting of the minimum bean price, and liberalization of the Nairobi Coffee Exchange.
Will not be sold fear, and will push on. And the president and I are willing to take the political hit from whatever direction it comes from.
The biggest irony for coffee is that today, Kenya coffee attracts the highest price. But the farmer gets that money never goes to the farmer. It goes to people along the chain. So we have to sort out this inefficiency.
The National Treasury is planning to waiver 117 billion shillings debt owed by the 5 state-owned sugar factories. The debt waiver, the government says, will open up the millers for leasing. In another policy shift, the government also vacated its earlier decision to fully privatize the 5 state-owned mills in favor of leasing.
Mesema, wafisadi, wakora, wezi, wale wanaiba pesa ya wananchi, wameangusha kampuni ya Mumias, wameenda wakaangusha kampuni ya Nzoia, kwa sababu mambo hiyo yote inaharibika. Alafu wanakuja hapa wanajifanya. Nimesema wafisadi wote, wakora wote, wezi wote wahame Kenya.
Collectively, out of the 128 billion we are talking about today, the farmers are owed more than 1.7 billion shillings, the individual farmers. You can imagine how much they have been suppressed, by that kind of loss in terms of their money that is not paid.
On tea, the Kenya Tea Development Agency is set to undergo major administration reforms. The reform has so far seen the chair of the Kenya Tea Development Agency, David Ichoho, resign before being reinstated by the courts.
People who have been making reforms difficult in this sector think that we are just here talking. This is the beginning of returning the dignity of the tea farmer in Kenya.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who is a key driver of the reforms in the subsector, says the government is keen on ending the KTDA leadership wrangles as part of housekeeping measures in the tea subsector.
In spite of Kenya producing distinct flavors of tea, the market does not take care of the best interests of the farmer. The farmer has no power to determine the price, yet this is a much sought commodity across the globe, even when sold in raw form.
During the tea conference made this year, the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said the government is planning to fully implement the Tea Act 2020. Farmers are now waiting to see what the next 1 year of Kenya Kwanza administration holds for them in terms of funding and reforms.
Tumekubaliana vile vile, mumesikia, tulikubaliana ya kwamba tunapunguza gharama ya mkulima kuzalisha mimea yetu.
Benson Rioba for the Government Scorecard.